Good morning, everybody. I have 3 things I want to talk about today, and one of those things is about an event that we will be talking about at the end of the video, so if you're interested, stay tuned until the end of the video. But without further ado, let's get into the 2 main topics of this video. The first, Hardcore League Season 3. How's it going so far? Is it good? Is it fun? What's different? And how have the changes of the extra lives this league mattered? Well, I will say that for starters, this league is a little bit easier than the previous hardcore leagues because you do get extra lives. Now, at first, before this came out, I was kind of against the idea because, well, I mean, it's called hardcore. It's in the name. So should we really have a league that has extra lives to make it easier? Of course, actually playing on hardcore league, there are some times that you just kind of die to things you don't expect or can't predict. Lag spikes are a great example of where you just kind of die and it's game over. Or how my character died last league by jumping into a pit of lava that I didn't realize was going to do half of my health in 2 seconds. This hardcore league gives you some extra lives to allow you to mitigate some of these potential disasters that can be very unexpected. Now granted, you're still going to die to regular gameplay, and the champions featured here are harder than last league because they are the regular champion pool, but it's important to keep in mind that just because you die to something that you can't predict doesn't mean that you should just get free extra lives. However, this league, since there has been a lot of instability so far, it has been very beneficial to many players. Problematically, due to some of the instability issues with the server, there have been some people who've experienced mass life loss, where they die and lose all of their lives in one death, which is very, very unfortunate, but for the majority of people playing experience, the extra lives has been very helpful. You get an extra life at level 8 and at level 16 once you earn the experience. You don't actually need to level up to that point, you just need to earn the amount of experience, and then all of a sudden you can die an extra couple times. The death leaves you in quest, which means people can resurrect you or bring you to a shrine to be able to pick you up so you can keep going and join the party, or stay dead, and then that way they can complete the quest. You don't have to take any risks any further. Unless you're playing a solo, at which point, well, I guess you just release and come back and try again. Now that being said, I do feel like this hardcore league, while it is a smidge easier, I think just the fact that we've been having some connection issues, it has been something that's eased a lot of people's minds about having to worry about the possibility of death. So since that's been the case and we've all been playing, how's it been going? Well, I started up a guild this league, which is Strimtom's Acid Arrows. Everyone is free to join. It's been a pretty good turnout so far. Been promoting a lot on the live stream and in other places, and it's been a pretty good ride. I've got a Warlock who's in epic levels right now, farming at Reaper XP and fully geared, and I have a Bear Druid who has been going through the favor process. And the character that I'd like to highlight for you today is the Bear Druid. I could, in theory, talk a little bit about the Warlock, but it's Enlightened Spirit Warlock. It's pretty basic, it's pretty straightforward, and I will be highlighting it later, just not right now. The thing I want to talk about right now is the Bear Druid, because this Druid has been much more successful than my Warlock. Successful against the monsters in Elite difficulty. This bear has never fallen below 50% health, and I am all the way up to level 11, burning my way through the many different level 7 quests that are featured in the game. And the key here is in all of the crazy defensive abilities you get, while also being able to stack pretty much exclusively offense, which is super cool. By being a Bear Druid, you're granted automatic access to 25% extra health and 6 extra constitution while using a shield, on top of the fact that being in bear form just gives you extra constitution. Additionally, your rage gives you more constitution and strength, so your character is going to be super duper tanky and have a ton of extra life that you just get to throw around. And since you're a druid, you can heal yourself the entire time during the leveling process. Not only that, because of the extra strength that you get, and all of the attacks that you can use as a druid, such as Maul, Great Maul, and Shred, your character is constantly hitting the enemies for a very high amount of damage. And being as a bear, you get lots of strike through. Now, I've had a myriad of people ask me, they say, Strimtom, how come you're not using a 2-handed weapon? And the reason I'm not using a 2-handed weapon is because by using a shield, I get access to Ursa's Protector, giving me 25% extra health and 6 extra constitution. So I could drop that for a 2-hander and gain some additional damage, but I like the idea of staying alive. Additionally, the only 2-hander that I'm proficient with as a druid is a quarterstaff, and unless I decided to do some multi-classing, which I don't do on this character. This character used scimitars while leveling with the shield, as well as turning into Khopesh build at level 9, because Khopesh is a more powerful weapon than scimitar. It is important to note that with this build, you can play it exactly the same, but since we're playing as a gnome, you can use Warhammers instead. Warhammers are granted to you for free as a gnome, and then instead of taking the Khopesh feat at level 9, you would instead take Knight's Training, and just continue to use the Warhammer during the leveling process. Bludgeoning weapons are fairly useful throughout the entirety of the game, so you should find yourself in in a good position using the bludgeoning weapon. So whether you decide to go Khopesh or you decide to go with the Warhammer, it doesn't really matter either way. You're still going to be pretty effective while leveling. Granted, Scimitar, for my money, is pretty much where I'd put all the best attributes of this character during the leveling process, and then once you get to swap and you get your improved critical feat or Knight's Training in terms of the Warhammer, that's when you want to be able to swap into those other weapons. But critical strikes are really, really useful on a druid. This character focuses mostly on the bear tree during the early levels, and then ends up putting a lot of points in the wolf tree to grab some of the useful things like extra trip DCs or Essence of the Shrike, so when you critically strike, you get some extra mana to cast with your spells. Because you critically strike all the time using a Scimitar or with a Khopesh or Warhammer, and all of your attacks giving you extra critical threat range, you pretty much always have this extra temporary spell points, and it's pretty useful. And then finally, of course, one of the immense things that you can do with the Bear Druid is you're able to cast Savage Roar, which stuns every single monster that's nearby you, and does a very, very high amount of damage. I cannot stress enough how insanely powerful Roar is when you have Savage Roar going, so make sure you get used to using this ability. It's very cheap and easy to set up by just using those mauls, using those shreds, and then slam-a-jamming on an entire group of monsters or an entire room with your Roar. It basically acts like a maximized fireball if you're raging, so I would recommend using it as often as possible. Even against monsters that are immune to stun, like a crowd of undead, just clearing a room is really powerful and really nice. So now that you've seen what the Bear Druid can do with some of the video footage here, and you're feeling good about it, let me show you exactly how you're supposed to build this character. So how exactly do you make the most out of your Bear Druid for the Hardcore League experience? Well, I'll show you. It starts by making yourself a pure druid. Now my character here is named Little Bear. I'm a gnome druid because gnome druids are really small. Gnomes are small, and when they go into animal form, they're really small. So this bear is tiny. My bear is shorter than every other race, except for gnomes and halflings. And even if I decide on my gnome to get on a horse, I'm still shorter than a human. Isn't that hilarious? So you get to be adorable, and you get to be in bear form. Now you might look at my stats and be like, whoa, this guy's level 11. He's got a lot of PRR, MRR, look at that armor class, look at that constitution, 430 hit points. Holy mackerel. That's right. Bear Druid is just incredibly tanky. I basically don't have a lot of good gear. What I have instead is just good stats from happening to be this type of character. So if you want to build it yourself, the basic process, I'll put a link below to the actual written build because I'm just following the build guide that I wrote on my previous video that I put out, the build guide for Hardcore Season 3, and I'm following that build exactly. So to start out, we started with a 16 strength, because strength is really important for this character. It does our damage. We started with a 16 con, because again, con is really important for this character. And we started with a 14 wisdom so we could cast our spells. Everything else being cast by the wayside, because we don't really need it. Just getting some stuff shored up by ship buffs, like from the dexterity, or even this intelligence here. I started with a 10 intelligence, I think, yeah, so because I had a couple extra points left over. The intelligence isn't super important, because I don't really need the skills, I just happen to have it. As far as the individual skills go, I use Concentration, Heal, Intimidate, and Spot. Now for this character, you don't need Concentration. I don't personally use Quicken on this character, because I find that most times you can get your spells off in combat anyway, so it's not a super huge deal. And the best Bear Druid spell that you can get, Mass Regenerate, has no, it pretty much almost instant cast, so you don't have to worry about it getting interrupted too often, unless you have to be in a trap or something like that that's actively going off. Then Heal, Intimidate, and Spot all make sense. The reason why I do Intimidate is because even if you decide to be a solo player, Intimidate is still reasonably useful because it does give you the ability to just keep monsters where you want them. If you have like a hireling or something, you can make sure monsters are attacking you or not running off into random places, which can be very convenient. And of course, Heal and Spot are just good. Now, as far as the feats go, this character, at level 1, Druids don't really have a lot of good options, so you can start with the Weapon Proficiency feat if you like to gain proficiency with a new weapon type. Or, in my case, I decided, because I'm a gnome, to go with the least Dragon Mark of Scribing. This allows me to cast the spell Shield, so I'm immune to magic missiles. Druids don't have any way to get immunity to magic missiles, and other than relying on items or popping out of animal form to use some type of wand, instead I can get the least Dragon Mark of Scribing and never have to worry about it. My character is always going to be immune to magic missiles pretty much all the time, and it's very, very valuable here. Additionally, because this effect scales with your level, you don't have to worry about like having to constantly recast a wand every 5 minutes or reuse a clicky every 5 minutes. I'm a level 11. This cat lasts 11 minutes, and I can use it, I think, 4 times before I have to rest. So really, really useful. Then after that, we took Natural Fighting at level 3 and level 6. Natural Fighting is just extremely useful. It gives you additional strike through chance while in bear form, as well as melee power, physical resistance, and double strike. It also gives you additional damage while using a two-handed weapon while in bear form, but I don't use a two-handed weapon, I use a shield, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Then at level 9, I decided to take the exotic weapon proficiency Khopesh because it's just slightly better than using a scimitar. And at level 12, I will be taking improved critical, so that way my Khopesh is hitting super duper hard. As far as the spells go, you want to make sure you're taking... Ooh, I didn't take my spell. You want to make sure you're taking the bear spells. Make sure you have Maul, and then when you can get Great Maul, take Great Maul. Make sure you take Shred, and make sure you take Roar. Other than that, you want to have the good offensive buffs, things like Magic Fang and Ram's Might, and you want to have the good defensive and utility buffs, like Jump, Bark Skin, Spider Skin, Freedom of Movement, Death Ward, just some of that good stuff. It's also important to note that regardless of what you're planning on doing with your character, make sure you take some cure spells along the way. You'll notice I don't have, the first Lesser Vigor spell or Cure Light Wounds. I did have them in at the time, I just swapped them out later for more useful buffs as I got to a higher level. So again, make sure you take the healing spells when you think you need them, and then swap them out later when you don't need them. Currently, I'm only using Cure Critical Wounds. I just happen to have Cure Serious Wounds in here in case my Cure Critical Wounds is on cooldown. I need to heal again, so I have Cure Serious. I don't generally use Vigor too often. Not that it's a bad spell, I just don't use it too often, because that's just how I do it. As far as enhancements go for this character, it's pretty straightforward. Put points in the Nature's Protector tree first, although I do like to put 1 point early into Natural Adept. 1 point here gives 8 hit points plus 1 to hit and damage, while in bear form. So this is really powerful. Just for 1 point, it's 8 health and plus 1 to hit and damage. You'd spend 2 points for just plus 1 to hit and damage. You'd spend 2 points for 10 health, so 1 point for both of those things is really good. So you just put 1 point here, and then everything into the Nature's Protector tree, grabbing the Enchanted Defense to beef up your Nature's Defense. I generally don't start using the Rage until I actually get up to Beast Awakened, so I would wait to Rage a lot, because this makes it so you can cast your Druidic Magic while raging, so you're able to heal yourself while you're actually really angry and killing people. However, once you have this, you want to be raging all the time, because your Rage gives you a ton of extra stats, damage, healing amp, immunity to death effects, and energy drain, so really, really potent. On top of that, you're also picking up Urza's Heart, so you want to grab the extra competence bonus to hit points and the extra competence bonus to constitution. The last one is magic resistance rating, which technically is an option, right here. I don't generally take this unless I have nothing else to take on my character. So I will end up taking this later, way later into my character, but not right now. Make sure you grab Bloody Claws as well as Sharp Claws so you can get the extra Killer Instinct on your character. Casting Maul or Shred grants you a stack of Killer Instinct, and depending on the number of stacks you have, which just gives you extra damage, but depending on the number of stacks you have, when you cast Roar, the Bear Druid spell, Roar, you get Savage Roar, which does an AoE stun at 2 stacks, or a extremely high damage AoE stun at 3 stacks. And when I say extremely high damage, I mean extremely high damage. Right now it's hitting for about 180 at level 11, so 180 damage going out, it hits all of the nearby monsters, and it stuns them, and there's no target limit, and the range is massive, so very, very useful, and all these spells are very cheap, so I recommend putting points into that. The Gnome Tree, at some point, depending on what your priority looks like, you can decide to put some points to get the permanent blur. I think this is actually generally worth it. The issue is a lot of the stuff you don't need in the tree. You don't really need the stealthy or the awareness. You don't really need the bonus to saves versus illusions, because illusions don't come up too often. You could take extra Dragon Mark uses, but you generally don't need that either. So it's really tough sell to put points into this section of the tree, but it is nice to have permanent blur, and I will be taking this later. I just want some of the bear stuff first. If you don't have an item that gives you blurry, this is just 20% less damage from physical attacks, so it's really powerful. And then at a Nature's Warrior, I currently have Essence of the Shrike, because Essence of the Shrike makes it to critically strike an enemy, you get temporary spell points for 8 seconds, and that's just really, really useful. This effect basically just means that all of the time you have infinite mana to do all of your melee attacks, and your special bear melee attacks, if you read any of them, like Great Maul, gives you +1 critical threat, range, and multiplier, which means you're getting extra crits when you use this skill, so it costs 4 points, but it has a higher chance to give you back 20. Same thing with Shred. This costs 6, but it gives you +1 critical threat, range, and multiplier, so it gives you a higher chance to give you back 20. So you're pretty much going to be using Essence of the Shrike and getting tons and tons of extra spell points from this, so you can never really run out in combat. That's pretty much how I do it. You want to get to tier 5 as soon as possible, so that's why I have these points. I'm just banking them, so I can take this point Big Claws, as well as taking all of these once I have 30 points spent in the tree. these things are all really good. Like this is 25 melee power while raging. Insanity. This is Bear Charge, a 15-second cooldown thing that allows you to dash over surfaces. You can use it underwater. It knocks down people with an insanely high DC, and it does extra critical threat range multiplier. Holy mackerel. And this, +3 con, lets you wear metal armor and shields, which means you can just go straight full plate at this point, and my armor class is going to boost up close to 100 once I throw in a tower shield as well. That's another feat you can take is tower shield proficiency. I believe my guide has you taking it around level 15, because tower shield proficiency is really good on a bear druid trying to be defensive, but you generally won't have any tower shields until around level 15. At least not any good ones. And then, of course, the extra absorption of force, resistance, and constitution is just beautiful. Force of nature is beautiful. So that's fantastic. As far as the itemization is going, my character is wearing a whole bunch of hodgepodge different gear. One of the reasons why you take Kopach at level 9 and not earlier is because at level 10 you can pick up a Barovian weapon, which then gives me access to the Barovian Kopach here. So I can just throw that on and have a really powerful weapon for my level. Outside of that, I'm just going to wear in some ragtag stuff. I got some devotion ring here. I got boots that give me dodge and strength because you need strength. Double strike and healing amplification right there. I got another ring for some constitution and feather falling. This set of bracers gives me spell saves. Spell saves are great because spell saves actually stack with your regular saves. So I'm 31, 17, and 24, which is pretty good. But if you go to saving throws versus spells, I get an extra 4. So that means that in combat, I effectively have a +21 on my reflex save against things like enemy spells and stuff, which is really nice. I think I just have some fortification armor here for level 6. You know, wisdom and accuracy goggles. Again, nothing crazy good. This I bought on the auction house, intimidate and resistance rating, which is nice. Bellows ring. This is an item that you get from Come Out and Slay from Bellows chest, which is the large minotaur. It just gives threat, false life, and intimidate, making it very useful for a character like mine. This one, the Battle-Worn Medal, comes out of the new quest. That's right here. That's actually in the Gatekeeper's Grove. I don't remember which quest, but it's one of them. This gives Charisma and Heroism. It's level 3. You're not going to usually have a trinket unless you decide to get yourself the Voice of the Master, so this trinket's actually really nice. The Charisma is useful, and the Heroism, it's effectively +3 to your Intimidate check in the early game, which I really like. I could probably replace this now that I can get access to Greater Heroism, but it's still good for the leveling process. This is just a Charisma cloak, because I wanted Charisma. And then finally, I've got the Vistani Fighter sash here, because I happen to have one from the first character that I leveled through, and this is just insanely good. 20 stacking life, Deadly 5, Vertigo, and Stunning. You do stuns, you do trips, so you want to have both of these. Usually you grab a Combat Mastery item somewhere, or in this case, this basically counts as Combat Mastery because it's got Vertigo and Stunning, giving me high DCs. Something important to note with this character is that your Great Maul is a stun, and it's really useful. It says its save is 15. The save is not calculated properly. You'll actually have to do it by hand, unfortunately. It doesn't show up on here. Similarly, the save on Roar doesn't show up on here. You'll have to do it by hand if you really want to know what it is. And that's pretty much it. That's how you play the character. So essentially, you're just running in, you're attacking stuff, you're casting your Roar. You do have the option to cast Rising Fury, which only costs 5, and it makes sense you get extra strength and con every time you get struck. This is kind of useful. If you remember to cast it, just throw it on before you enter combat, and that's pretty much all you need to do. And then other than that, you just kind of stick yourself with some rages and go to town on people. And that's pretty much it for this character. So if you want to give it a shot, and the video here that I'm talking about is a little too fast, or I'm not being as explanatory as I probably should, look how short my bear is. Look how little I am. This is a half orc. I'm like not even close to the same size. Hilarious. If you'd like to play this character and you want to do that, and you need a written format, again, I'll link it below, and it was in the previous video. Now, that being said, I do want to thank you guys for watching, and I have a bit of an announcement, so I'll just leave it up to me to kind of give you guys the lowdown on what the heck is going on, and a couple things that we're doing here, Strimtom style. So for the 2 people that decided to stay to the end of the video, I wanted to let you guys know that we are actually going to be finally doing the Sun Flask build. For those of you that have followed the live stream and in different places on my Discord channel and other things, you would know that I've been collecting Sun Flasks to create a character that is meant to level from 1 to 20 using only the weapon, the Sun Flask. A weapon that has a limited amount of ammunition, so hopefully the many thousands that I have will be good enough. Now, there are many issues with this build, given the fact that Sun Flasks are not light, they're actually quite heavy, and they only come in stacks of 50. It makes it very difficult to actually manage, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create this character. However, this build alone is not the only reason I'm making this announcement. We're going to be starting this character on August 1st, which is a Saturday, and we'll be doing a live stream all day, as well as all day on holiday Monday, because Monday is a holiday here in Canada, and so it will be pretty exciting. So please tune in to that. Now, the second thing is, if you're like a lot of the people that have have been watching this channel, where you really want to get some Strimtom merch and you haven't been able to do that, well, fear no more, because you're going to be able to do that today. So don't worry about looking like a chump. You can look like a winner with some of these awesome Strimtom shirts and other items. On top of that, there's also going to be a limited edition Sunfest 2020 shirt. So if you want to participate in the event that's going here, we'll be doing Sunfest 2020, which is to commemorate both the Sunflast build and then also to kind of bring a little bit of light to some people's lives. I know we got the pandemic going on right now, and it's a little tough. So all of the money that is made from the sale of the Sunfest shirts, or anything that has the Sunfest logo on it, all of that money is going to be going to charity. I'll be donating it to the Ottawa Food Bank, which is the food bank in my city, because there have been some people that have been adversely affected by the impact of the coronavirus, so we'll be going through some of that stuff. So that will be pretty exciting. And so for those of you that are interested, there will be a link in the description to be able to access the merch store, and also if you're interested in getting into that stuff. Now let's just say you're sitting here and you're like, oh, but Strimtom, I can't actually buy any of these things because I don't have the monies. Well, on top of that, I also want to be doing some giveaways as well for some people, so just stay tuned for that. We're going to be doing it through YouTube community posts, so I'm going to be doing something there. I'll be doing a giveaway in the Discord, and I will be doing it through the live stream as well. So there'll be opportunities to win some cool stuff, some DDO stuff, and also some sweet Strimtom merch to go along with all these things. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you're all having a fantastic day, and like I said, if you're interested, just, you know, buy products and wear them, or don't. You know, it's really hard for me to try to advertise these products. I have them all. I put them on my body. I made sure that they feel good. The fabric is good. They wash well, so I can vouch for the product. The product is good, but it just feels really weird because I personally and habitually very rarely buy the shirts or apparel of the people that I watch. So I've started doing it now, and I've been really happy with it, which is why I started doing it here and making the sales. So if you're, like I said, if you're interested, please give it a look. If you're not, I still appreciate everyone tuning in to watch the videos or anything else. It means a lot. So thank you guys. Have a awesome rest of your day, and we will see you Saturday with the live stream.